in the 1950s and 60s, Kissinger, before he entered the realm of power, came up with the idea of the problem of conjecture. It's an extremely important idea that should be communicated to any decision maker, whether they're in the private sector or the public sector. And the problem of conjecture says that at any given moment, when one must take a decision, there is a kind of asymmetry. And the asymmetry arises from the fact that if you act, let's say if you had acted in 1938 to prevent Hitler's takeover of Czechoslovakia, there would have been a cost. The war would have begun earlier, and even if you had successfully prevented a much larger war, the World War that broke out in 1939, you would have got no real gratitude for that. You get no payoffs for the averted catastrophe. Your preemptive action has a cost, and that you're held responsible for. The tempting thing, particularly in a democratic system, is to do nothing, hope for the best, because that has a low cost. And if disaster nevertheless happens, if you're unlucky, then you say to yourself, well, anybody in my position would have made the same error. So the cost of preemption's high, and you have to take a decision conjecturally, because you can't know that in acting in 1938, you avert a much larger and more dangerous war. You cannot have that certainty. And there are no data that will tell you. So I think decision-making under uncertainty is the hardest thing of all, but it has to be done. And I think what I've learned from Kissinger is that you will be held responsible and judged very harshly for those actions you take, even if they avert disaster. You won't get thanked. Nobody ever will thank Henry Kissinger for avoiding World War III. Nobody will, I think, ever thank any statesman for avoiding calamity. They will only blame them for the actions that they took. And here's the final point that Kissinger makes. Most choices in the realm of power are between evils. You just have to decide which is the greater and which is the lesser. There are very frequently no good options. I think that's very clear today in the Middle East, since we're talking at a time of fresh disaster in that region. There are no good choices facing the Israeli government or even the government of the United States, but there's no option to do nothing. I think that must be clear.